The week is here, the time is near, and we still have no idea what we're going to do it for. However, what we do know is that everybody lies. Sammy, bang that.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. And Bill Show.
Intercepted! Marlon Jackson! Marlon's got it! We're going to the Super Bowl! We're going to the Super Bowl! Marlon Jackson with the interception! He picked off Tom Brady!
The sickest Indianapolis Colts podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Yes, sir. Welcome back to the Anvil Show. I am your host, Clyde, with my two boys. Come on in. Let's go, Pat. Let's go, Acosta. Welcome back. Episode 2. How you guys feeling?
Great.
Pretty good.
Yes, great, pretty good. There's some variance there. I'm feeling amazing. I will just say, for all of our followers, the Fanatic Forge. Is that what we call them? The
Forge
Forge
Fanatics.
Fanatics. There you go. The Forge Fanatics. The Switch has been amazing. And if you guys really, really want to know why the Switch was important, I'll just tell you. And I mean this from the heart of hearts. The way that we can put this show out there and the audience that we are able to now connect with is amazing. 4 days on episode 1, and we're already at like 1.4 views. So it's important. And we're going to live and love it here. Welcome to Sick. But anyway, that's neither here or there. It's draft week, right, boys?
Yes, sir.
Now, I got to interrupt here. Glad you
Uh-oh.
look mighty spiffy today.
Oh.
Can you hold that up a little bit?
Oh,
Look
yeah.
at that.
Just some Anvil merch that may or may not come to a place near you. I don't know, a town near you, but no. So I had a custom
tailgate
jersey
near
made,
you.
a tailgate near you. Exactly. Had a custom jersey made, and it actually turned out pretty well. So later I'll post this on our Facebooks and socials. And if you guys like it, maybe we get together and get it created and then make it available at a tailgate. But we're not here to sell merch. We're here to talk NFL draft. And the week is here, like I said in the opening. And I'm super excited because every year this is like part of Christmas, right? Christmas starts at the combine. And I think this is the close of that early Christmas. And so what will we do? We have a lottery pick this year at 4. We already talked about quarterbacks last week. But this week it's important to dive into what our GM is saying. He had a presser the other day, and it was must-see TV. And with that, Sammy, run first clip, please.
Open to working with any style. How do you zero in on what fits you the best if he's kind of open to whatever?
Yeah, and that's a good thing. I mean, that opens that broadens the field for you. And that's a good thing. And I think as we've gone through the process of, all the evaluations and coming down to what we think will be best for the Indianapolis Colts, whoever we end up taking is going to be that guy, and he'll make it work.
Now, that is in response to what we kind of talked about last week. He was asked, given Shane Steichen's background and the ability to work with multiple quarterbacks, would it matter? So now, boys, we're going to reattack that. So hearing that from Chris Ballard, first I'll start with this, kind of a trick question. Does he show his hand to any quarterback, in your opinion? Patrick, I'll let you start since you just had a sip of whatever that is to get you going.
He has absolutely not showed his hand.
Okay.
But I'll bring up, and I scoured and scoured and scoured for this video. But it was an interview he did at the combine.
All right.
And Chris was talking about, no, we're good at 4, and we wholeheartedly believe we're going to get the best player in the draft at 4. Didn't say best quarterback.
Oh, don't start that.
He said, hey, you know how Chris is. You know how Chris is.
No.
So as we're rolling out these topics for the show and coming into the draft this week, it got me thinking back to that, thinking, maybe he showed his hand there and nobody's picked up on it.
But this was about a quarterback specifically, though, because he was talking about Shane Steichen. But I know the video you're talking about, and I remember that because you sent it to the group, and
I
immediately,
can't find it.
yeah. And I hope it was because it was deleted because nobody wants to hear anything outside of a quarterback because that's not what we're trying to hear. But Casa, I'm gonna kick it over to you. Did Chris show his hand in any way answering that question for the quarterback?
Absolutely not. I mean, he's what I gathered from it is he's, whoever we get, whoever top 4 quarterback we get, we're gonna as Shane Steichen's resume shows, he's gonna build up any quarterback that we bring. So I mean, he's confident in anyone that anybody that's there, because there's rumors of people trading up, people trading down, and blah 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 blah. So whoever we get, he's confident that Shane Steichen can coach him up no matter what his talent level might be, because they're determined to make this young man, their guy. So
I think this is what's important here, and maybe I'm going to completely just blow this up and make it more. I like to overthink things, but it could be very interesting yet scary to also think that as fans, we have to admit to ourselves that we have to be okay with multiple options here. Like he's not centered on one guy, and our whole draft doesn't go kaput if that said guy is gone. They have done such amazing work, in my opinion, that they've already kind of decided and declared that, hey, you know what? It doesn't matter who we get. Like, because we have a system in play with the coach that we have that he can work with any of these guys' skill set. I don't think that changes the offense too dramatically, but it also gives them more options. And that right there is power. That's like a super Swiss Army knife. And I think fans, we have to start gripping with that because as we talked last week, you kind of get hives when you hear the word Will Levis. You know what I mean? And there's other fans that get hives when they hear Anthony Richardson because he's so raw. And there's people who get frustrated when they hear CJ Stroud may not come our way because that's the guy that they really want. So, man, this is very unique. I honestly believe usually, I mean, GMs will tell you whatever they want to, but I usually think that GMs know who they want, right? But it sounds like the Colts know who they are okay with, and that's different because it's like, hey, we're not going to do nothing crazy to go get this guy when we've evaluated these other guys and they fit the bill too. That's power. So now I'm starting to maybe understand with only 3 days to go now, man, you're going to hear a lot of things. And somebody brought this up about the Vikings, right? That was the latest rumor. Vikings slide up to 3. And they're talking about that was a really real possibility. And of course, Colts fans start to molt, like hairs falling out, and then sweating, like getting hives because, oh my goodness, somebody's going to come take our guy. But listening to that answer, there's multiple guys that are our guy. That's how I believe.
And there's got to be, especially with a GM like Chris.
Yeah.
He prefers draft capital over that one guy that everybody's targeting. Yeah. He would, and I've said it on this show before. I love how he builds this team, because it's besides the quarterback, it's a balanced team on all 3 fronts. Right. Versus go back and look at the Polian years. We were so heavily on offense, our defense sucked.
Suffered.
And that kept us out of a lot of Super Bowls, in my opinion. Right. And then when our defense started catching up to our offense, magically we're in 2 Super Bowls.
Facts. And it's and then we had just missed the window of time. You know what I mean? Like, not that our team looked old by any means, but you can tell, like, God, if they would have just peaked like they're peaked now 3 years ago, we'd have blew the Saints out the water. We'd have beat the Saints by been 35-10 or something. Like you know what I mean? Like the year that Peyton went nuts in like 04, then I think he went nuts again like 05. Like if we show up with that team in 09, I mean, well, if that offense shows up in 09, yeah, the Saints, come on, man. What? They run the same defense as us. Some busted cover 2 that gets lucky here and there and gets a game-winning pick. But 05 Peyton Manning, no, he destroys them, bro. It's not even funny. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Those are moments that we cry deeply because we should have 4 Super Bowls at least, minimum.
At least.
Just at least. Oh my God, don't do it to me. But anyway, sticking with Shane Steichen. Too soon, too late, too never. I don't know. But sticking with Shane Steichen with that also that point, I think the other thing that came out of that, not only does he not show his hand to any guy, but I think he shows, and this is important, and I think a lot of people are missing this, he shows ultimate confidence that this, and I know a lot of people have seen Draft Day with Kevin Costner. This is not a Chris Ballard pick. He's listening to Shane Steichen. And that doesn't, now I'm not trying to draw some like, crazy divide between him and Frank Wright. But what I'm saying is we knew, Colts fans were just aware that Chris Ballard was very much like, okay, Frank, here's a player, make it work. I think this is completely different. I think this is, hey, we got this coach in. He's kind of a savant. He's young. He has ideas. Who do you want? And he's like, look, man, I'm not playing. We can do this. We can do this. We can do this. And this guy, that guy, and this guy fits the bill. So don't do anything drastic up top. Just trust in the system. And we just are in a great draft for me to be able to work with multiple guys. And that right there is some of the things I feel like are working behind the scenes that us Colts fans are not giving anyone the benefit of the doubt for. How do you guys feel about that?
I have to agree with you.
Did I blow your mind, Pat? And he's like, whoa.
No. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go on this one.
I'm just kidding. But Costa, you get to start this time. What do you feel about that?
I mean, I absolutely agree, man. I mean, it's just Shane Steichen is so, just so driven, man. He's so passionate. He's so determined to win a championship. This is his first opportunity, and obviously he doesn't want to muck it up, right? So, and Chris obviously trusts him. Like you said, I don't think there's going to be a divide there or anything. But, I mean, man, the dude knows what he's doing, obviously. He's built some of the best quarterbacks in the league that we know today. So it's just he knows what he's doing. His second year as OC, he called the plays. They went to a Super Bowl. I mean, he obviously just knows what he's doing. It's just that obvious and that simple. And we're just, we're going to trust him. He's, like you said, he's got great ideas. He's got probably a great scheme for the offense coming up. So, I mean, why not? Why not listen to him?
Why not? All right. Pat, you about to do your hand rub?
No, I've been warned against that. I've got too many calluses. Sounds like cheese graters going together. But anyway, I'll remind everybody.
Oh my God!
at Coach Shane's introduction press conference, quarterback was brought up several times, and basically the point he drove home was, I want the guy that's going to live, sleep, eat, and breathe football 24/7. Okay, that's a box that Shane wants checked off. He wants that guy, that mentality. Is it Bryce Young? Is it C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richards, Will Levis, or the dude out of Purdue? I don't know. But
wait, slow down, Patrick.
I'm just saying. I'm just throwing names out there.
Yeah.
But to me, what they're doing is they're checking off all their boxes. Nobody else's box matters to them.
Facts.
These are our boxes. Which quarterbacks check off the most boxes?
Okay.
And they've got 3 or 4 prospects that's checked all the boxes and that they're okay with. And that's what you're going to see come draft night is who's available that checks off the most boxes.
Man, listen, before we switch to the next one, I'm so pumped for this because it just feels different. I mean, it's not because it's the next year. It just feels different. Yeah, we still got the same guy at the but Steichen, it just feels different.
The energy is real. Like a major change is coming, and it's and it feels like it's definitely for the better.
Now let me remind you guys of that same that introduction interview that it was the end of season interview they did with Chris, and he said I fired myself a dozen times. And this and that. And then he talks about, I'm going to go back and I'm going to reevaluate the way I do things because we've got shortcomings here, here, and here. And it starts with me. So you're seeing what the man said he was going to do. He reevaluated himself, his process, and look where we're at.
Mm-hmm. And with that, Sammy, let's hear more from Chris Ballard. Clip number 2, please.
That all, right?
Yep.
Prep. So I'm curious into that. Like, have you decided what you're willing to give up if you want to move up to 3? Let's just say.
Well, that's saying we want to move up.
I knew this was coming.
At least you won't be sitting. I mean, the good news is at least you won't be sitting around all day till the second round.
I mean, are
Okay. And for all of our fans, and not the fans of the Anvil, but the fans of the Indianapolis Colts and the Horseshoe, that's your answer to are we moving up? It's probably going to be a no. I'm just going to sit here and tell you going up to 3, even crazier, going up to 2, probably off the books. Now, he didn't say anything about backing it up. And Lord, please, oh my goodness. I cannot stand through another back it up, but we're definitely not going to push it forward. So, how do you guys feel about hearing that almost confirmation that let's stop talking about going to 3? Pat, I'll start with you.
Well, it made me feel good because he says nobody's going to be waiting until round 2. So that tells me that he's not trading back or trading out of the first round, at least. He might trade back, but still in the first round. But remembering what he said at the beginning of this thing about lying to people, dancing around, and he flat said, I'm going to be dancing today. So is that part of his dance?
Oh,
I don't know.
Why do you always got to take the take that's always questioning everything? Country, get in there and undo that. He just gives me more doubt.
You can't undo that.
This is my birthday week, bro, and you're giving me anxiety.
You don't get a whole week for your damn birthday. You're a grown ass man.
Let the man celebrate his damn birthday, bro.
You get 2 hours for your birthday. That's it. Now get your ass back to work.
Maybe when you're north of 50, but when you still down here with me, like, no, like, wait a minute.
I mean, Pat, I'm sorry that you were born in the Stone Ages. That's how they did things back then.
My joints still work, Pat. You hear that? Nothing.
God, I'm so jealous right now.
Anyway.
I fling my arms around like that. It's going to sound like I just poured a bowl of Rice Krispies.
You know what?
Or it's going to sound like some hands clapping.
Oh, my God. Okay. Country, stay on task because he's not. So can we confirm that we're definitely not moving up now? Can you put everybody to bed on all the crazy talk you've heard about, oh, Colts come up. Oh, Colts come up. You know, what do you think now?
Absolutely. I mean, we're definitely going to stay at 4. The press conferences from Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard, the multiple ones they've had, you know, especially like at the combine, they kept saying we're comfortable at 4. We're staying at 4. 4 is where we like it to be. The second best, you know, player is going to be at 4 when it gets there. We're comfortable at 4. You know, it was a Ferris wheel just going around and around and around and around. So, I mean, it was just they've definitely confirmed that we're going to be staying at 4. I mean, just depending on what might happen, you never know. It's the NFL draft. You know, it's a strategic chess game. You know, you never know what might happen. But you know, I think, you know, we're going to stay comfortable at 4. It's just they've said it too many times now.
So there's something I want to bring up. So again, and this is, matter of fact, you know what? It's better if I wait. So I'll comment on that well before I get onto it. But anyway, staying with this one, I will say this. We've heard our fan base go absolutely nuts, right? We have heard things such as let's just tank and wait for Caleb Williams next year, like, which is absurd. This year hasn't even started and people already want to blow it away.
Marvin Harrison Jr., all that.
Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, I mean, and so to have this position, and we've talked about this before, like, it's just a year where unfortunately it was the year that we were bad. And now we're kind of in the middle of, oh my goodness, would it be great to now look back at our record like, man, we lost 2 other games. Yeah, right. So now we're at 2. Now we're at, you know, at least 3. But never has 4 felt so far back. Like 4 kind of feels like 29 this year or something. It's crazy. But
dude, I'm gonna have anxiety when we're watching the draft Thursday night. It's gonna be like, we're only at 2. Like, I felt like it's already been an hour.
And I think that's simply because there's so many things that are just floating around. Meanwhile, I think the draft room for Indianapolis Colts is like locked and loaded. You know what I mean? I think, yeah, and I think there will be surprises, which I'm going to bring up here shortly. But with my thoughts with that, fan base, finally put it to bed. Not going to happen. Stand at 4. Sammy, roll clip 3, please.
How much lying do you think goes on right now?
Oh, everybody's lying. I might be the most honest, unfortunately. But everybody's lying.
You guys lie?
I think you know Melly well enough. Like, Usually if you answer a question, I'll either dance around it or give you an answer. Today I'm a dancer.
And this is by far my favorite clip. This is my favorite clip of them all. And the reason why this is my favorite clip is because I think that that's what we get caught up in. And everybody talks about smoke screens and this, that, and the other. But the truth of the matter is, flat out, like, who do they owe any truth to? Right? Like, you ask Chris Ballard or you ask any of the other 31 GMs, they can come up there because they have to. They're obligated, but they don't owe you the truth. Like, and then why would they show their hand, right? Like, I mean, if football was really that open and shut, then there's no reason to play the game. It's all going to be a little bit of strategy, a little bit of mind games, a little bit of chess play. And so ultimately, just stating that everyone lies, but he's the most honest, I give him kudos for like giving himself a little bit of integrity. But Chris Ballard is lying his ass off most of the time too. When they're asking these questions, they so want to be the first to write in their, papers or whatever, or their articles. So this is my favorite clip simply because he's truth telling, but he's still not telling us anything. But everybody lies, hence the title of the show. So Pat, everybody's lying about Will Levis being our guy, right? Everybody's lying about Anthony Richardson being a bust, right? Like, I mean, really, what do we know? So I'll start with you. Since everybody's lies, what's true?
I don't know. I have no idea. It is the season of lying right now.
Facts.
And it's not in until Saturday night when the draft concludes.
Yes, it's true.
You
And then
know,
the truth.
And I like how blunt and honest he is about it. Everybody's lying, and I'm not going to tell you what the hell I'm doing either. So don't ask me his questions, or I'm lying to you too.
I'm gonna dance today.
But what is funny though is last month we seen reports that were negative about Will Levis. This month we're seeing positive reports about Will Levis, but negative reports about CJ Stroud.
Oh yeah,
saying how poor he's done on that S2 and and all this other stuff. It's just the mainstream media that's doing this silly stuff to get clickbaits.
and he said that too. I didn't mean to cut you off, Pat, but he said in another clip, which we didn't get, but he was stating about he doesn't like it when people come out with this, undisclosed news. He's like, what's the point, right? Like at this point, mostly all of the teams have done their homework and they know this. So you're just breaking something that maybe the teams have already known and settled with, and now it's like, oh, okay, so everybody knows. It doesn't change anything, right? But anyway, I mean, look at Laramie Tunsil a couple of years ago, right? Like the whole gas mask with the weed and whatever. Now this dude just got paid the highest tackle money ever. It's like that never even happened, right? So what was the point of coming out and exposing him when now he's the highest paid tackle in the game?
Because it's media clickbait. It's how they make their money in journalism. The scare tactics, the negativity. For some ungodly reason, people are drawn to that shit. That's why they do it.
Yeah, it's like watching the Kardashians, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Which you are a fan of the Kardashians.
No?
Oh, don't lie to now that just because we on a new network, don't be acting like you don't watch the Kardashians. You used to send us
never.
Okay, I'm just
kidding. He watches Chrisley Knows Best.
That I do watch.
I knew it. Oh, I knew it.
You probably watch The View during the daytime, don't you, Pat?
No.
He sits there in his shop and he just sits there on his laptop and that's what he does. He acts like he's working, but he's actually watching Chrisley Knows Best.
If I have time to watch TV and my sports aren't on, I watch old reruns of MASH. That's it.
Wow. Okay, country. That's about the Korean War. A lot of people get that confused that is Vietnam is definitely Korean War, and that's telling you something about that guy on our left side. But anyway,
the bad thing is I've been up and down most of those mountains you see in that show.
Okay, Jesus Christ. All right, where you at?
Okay, you're old.
On Everybody Lies.
I mean, obviously, it's a battle plan. I mean, we hear historically. I mean, okay, I'm gonna say something and don't get offended by it, anybody. I promise. But it's like, football's not, obviously close to war or anything like that. But it's like I'm comparing it to it like the strategy between opposing armies. They're gonna have strategic capabilities. One army's gonna know things about the other, but the real strategy they will never know. So they might lie about it or have like a distraction to deter them from something. Their actual strategy. So it's just like it's the same thing. I mean, there's a reason why they call the draft room the war room. That's where all the strategy goes in. So I mean,
Top secret.
Yep, it's top secret. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, everybody has to lie. I mean, who wants to show their hand? Like honestly, because I mean, I wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
So I mean, but I mean, go ahead.
No, I'll just say all 32 GMs need to atone for their sins of lying. They're all bad men.
and that was me dancing.
Hey, listen to this though before we move to the last clip. So, oh yeah, Game of Thrones there. I like that. So somebody, and this guy is unknown. He's just an AFC scout via Bleacher Report. Check this out. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. The Colts would probably love for someone to jump them and select Stroud so they can take Levis. You want to talk about people just saying stuff. And that is a perfect segue for the final clip. Sammy, please roll that audio.
Or basically the top two, Young and Stroud. And here in the last week or so, all of a sudden, it's changing a lot. I don't expect you to know what Houston's thinking it too, but is this an example of just there's so much time going on that people just get bored and start saying different things? And is that normal?
Well, what I always find interesting is like who's lining them up. You know what I mean? I mean, who's lining them up? And you're not. I don't know if. I think if you polled 32 teams, you might get 32 different answers of how they would have them lined up. So, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you who we have lined up 1, 2, 3, and 4, and even 5 and 6. I think there's some other players in this draft that are pretty good too. But who's lining them up? I mean, they don't have any skin in the game. They don't. It's a little different. They have no skin. It's easy to line them up and be wrong. And then when you're right 1 out of 10 times, you scream at the top of your lungs that I told you so. But no, who's lining them up?
That is important because a lot of times we run with things and it's clickbait, it's packages mentioned in the last segment, and you can't wait to post it. You can't wait to hear, people's opinions about it. And like I just read that this guy is unknown. He's just an AFC reporter. What does that mean? Right? Is that even real? Could be this AI thing that's coming out. Somebody just comes on. But I say that to say that's really important to keep in mind because, like Chris Ballard illustrated, even when it's people like Todd McShay or Mel Kiper, people who actually get paid for their analysis, what is their connection or anything truly to any team? Nothing, right? Like they're not going up there to be, biased in any way or, they really want this team to do well. I'm sure they have their favorite teams because they grew up in some part of America, and that's what we do as Americans. We like football and we root for our home team. But in doing their job, they're not selling us that. So I feel like us, fan base, we have to realize every source is not credible, but even sources that are credible are still not all knowing, right? And we have to get away from that. And so with that said, I'll kick off this last segment for you guys, but who is lining them up and why does things like that have so much emphasis on what we may or may not do? Acosta, I'll start with you. How do you feel about that last segment?
I mean, man, it's just like you said, who's lining them up? So in the Colts war room, I think Chris Ballard obviously likes the team effort. So, they're getting everybody's vote on who they want to line up and stuff like that. But I can't really say for the other teams who's actually lining them up. But I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's for us, I just think it's a team effort. Who's lining up? I think it's just all of us.
Yeah, and it's internal, right? So
Yes.
Again, so him addressing that a reporter was like, well, if Joe Blow and whoever outside of our organization is lining up, go for it. I'm sure everybody thinks that. I mean, and nowadays you can bet anything, right? So who's to say that, on draft day, DraftKings and FanDuel and everybody else is going to have all kind of odds out there to be made, right? So right now, odd makers are just trying to play the best odds they can to make the most money. But listening to some kind of inside reporter, Chris Ballard also talked about that in another portion of his presser. He was like, yeah, we're not leaking nothing. So anybody that says they have an inside or they know something that you guys haven't heard from me or another part of the brass is basically BS and bogus, which I think that we sometimes get lost in that, right? So anyway, Pat, Chris Ballard is like your big brother / father figure, mentor, all these other things.
Keep it going.
Daddy.
Who's lining them up for you?
Well, and I like that statement he made, that all these so-called experts, they have no skin in the game. If they're wrong, they're going to come back to the following draft and do it all over again.
Big facts.
If these GMs and these scouts, if they're wrong, they lose their job. So I think that's real important to keep in mind going towards Thursday and further into the future, that these guys have to be right, and that's one of the reasons we haven't seen Chris Ballard draft a high QB yet, because he hasn't seen that guy. Because if I'm going to spend this pick, it's going to be the right guy. It's going to be my guy. That QB hasn't been there. We've seen it definitely last year. First QB taken off the board was Pickett, and 2027 or something around that area.
It was later. I don't know if it was that late, but it was in the 20s.
Yeah, so evidently he wasn't going to go after a quarterback last year. Now who's he seeing this year? I don't know, but just like us, if we're wrong in our mock drafts when we do it, we don't get fired. We don't have to uproot our families to go find another job. These guys do. So that comment really smacked me across the face. I'm like, makes a lot of damn sense. And I never looked at it that way. Because I've watched all those guys. Daniel Jeremiah, Mel Kiper, the other guy you mentioned.
Who did I mention? Todd McShay. Yeah, Graziano, all those guys.
And they do a fabulous job. But it comes down to, if they're wrong, nothing happens to them. Facts. But on the other side, at the organization level, if they're wrong and they're real, real wrong, see you later, bye.
You real gone, right?
real gone.
About like we are this evening. So one last parting shot, guys, because there's no way we can do this to the people who are going to listen. So draft is in, 3 days, like we've been saying, and we all have to confirm a pick getting out of here. So Acosta, you're up first. With the 4th pick, the Indianapolis Colts select.
I'm going to go bold, man. CJ, MF, and Stroud.
CJ, MF, and Stroud. All right, Pat, rolling over to you with the 4th pick. The Indianapolis Colts select
Gonzalez, cornerback.
Right.
Don't you Omaha me.
Bro him.
You asked me who, and I gave you.
I can't even find
it.
Are you serious?
It's a very good possibility.
No, hell no. Are you serious? Are you leaving the air with that?
Are you serious?
Nah.
Oh my God.
Okay.
I can see it in
is that
some
your
small
pick
sense. I can.
Would you just make a pick? You prima donna.
Quarterback. I ain't gonna pick the same one you picked.
It's okay.
It's okay.
You stay with Gonzalez.
No, I'll go with if he goes outside of quarterback, it's probably going to be one of those edge rushers or defensive tackles.
You know what?
If he doesn't go quarterback.
Okay. You're done. With the 4th pick in the 2023 NFL draft, the Indianapolis Colts select Carvey, hear me out. Anthony Richardson, University of Florida.
What?
And with that, Sammy, take us out of here.
Let's go.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast and Bill Show on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.